It's emotional for myself. I played for different NHL teams, but I was tied to the Panthers. That's where I fell in love with the community when I stepped off the plane. Those early years down in Miami, it became so special, and so the Panthers just were always in my heart. And to come back once I retired from playing, to come back and to fall into broadcasting, not fall in with any team, but the team that I cherished the most in the community that I've always had a house. So I've been down there in South Florida, pretty much had my house from day one in different areas, but for 30 years to go through the ups and downs, get off that hot start as a player, go to the Cup, and then come back and see some down years and be involved with it. And that kind of hurts, but it's all of a sudden, Mr. Viola, the ownership, the commitment, you make the playoffs for 4 straight years to build the trust in the fan base, and you can start to see it explode. It's emotional for myself. It's really hard to just contain it all in. There's a deep love for myself, for this franchise, and just for the community in general in South Florida. It's meant so much. It has given so much to me. The team has given uh, to me. The community has. It's embraced me, and I feel part of it. And now that you're this, and so the dream as a player is always to win that Stanley Cup. And when you retire and it no longer becomes a reality, there's no other way to touch the cup unless you're part of an organization that wins it. I've never had my hands on it. I can't watch Stanley Cup celebrations because it's no longer that dream when it ends. This is the only way it happens for me. This is the only way that I maybe get a chance to put my hand on it, on that Stanley Cup, and just maybe take a picture with it. That would be the ultimate goal, and kind of put a cap on everything that has happened so far to this date. That's why this means so much for myself and this whole Panther group, the community, the fan base. This team deserves all the respect in the world. They've laid their hearts on the line. Now we're that much closer, just one win away from the Holy Grail, Lord Stanley.
So cool. And I don't think anyone would argue that when you do touch that cup that you had so much to do with it yourself, having been there right from the beginning. I know when you first got off that plane in the early to mid 90s, hockey was like this new phenomenon down here, right? Like people maybe didn't know how to take it, or if it was going to last and all that stuff. Just from that aspect, to see that it has, and that so many fans are down there just eating up this sport, like see how much the sport has grown down here. It must give you some pride as well, right?
It does. That's one of the best experiences that I have with the Panthers organization, is that I'm involved with the Learn to Play clinics for 5 to 9-year-old kids. That happens every weekend. There's 6-week programs, but they're all the way from Kendall all the way up to West Palm Beach at 8 different rinks, if you can imagine that. We started with one practice rink in Pompano and the game rink in Miami. Gretzky's building another rink in West Palm. And when I go to those Learn to Play clinics, all the way down to Kendall, doesn't matter where we are, the diversity that we have on the ice. There's 50 kids almost every ice session, just wanting to participate, and to see the smiles on those kids' face at all these different rinks. There's local tournaments. We had Shane Gostisbehere, local product, make it to the NHL. Brandon Duhaime is homegrown. They're players that are coming out of South Florida, and it all started just with the buildup, and it's going to get bigger with what's happening with it over in Tampa Bay. Has had a big part to do with it. And now on the other side here with the Panthers, if this is 5 straight years with Florida being represented in the Stanley Cup final. If the Panthers do pull it off and win a Stanley Cup, that is 3 of the last 5 years that the Stanley Cup will reside in Florida. That's just phenomenal for the growth of the game.
So awesome. And I know that you know how difficult it is to go on a run in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Takes a lot of work, a lot of grit, and maybe some luck in some cases, here and there, bounces and whatever.
Absolutely.
But how impressed are you with what you've seen from the team this time around. I mean, it's for like to just make all the adjustments they need to make. They weren't able to get past Vegas, and then just to be a well-oiled machine like this, it's what stands out for you so far here?
It starts for me right from the template with Paul Maurice at training camp coming back and saying this is going to be one of the hardest training camps that you're ever going to go through. And I'm going to put you through the paces. We have an expectation this year to get back. And Matthew Tkachuk said, we will be back at the end of last year's Stanley Cup final. So they embraced that hard training camp and they went above and beyond. So with the coaching staff, Bill Zito, the moves that he's made as a general manager, but the players at the end have to be able to produce on the ice. Those are the ones that are going to have to execute everything. The fans have come out, but when you watch this team play, they've earned the trust of the fan base. They don't take shifts off. And throughout the course of these playoffs, what's impressed me most is trying to stay with the Panthers for 60 minutes. We've seen the Rangers. We've seen Tampa Bay. We've seen Boston. They can hang for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 25. Good luck staying with the Panthers for 60 minutes for the whole game.
Yeah, they've become,
and maybe
especially
if it
in the
goes
playoffs, like this playoff plan that they're working to perfection, like just boa constricting the opportunities of Connor McDavid and Draisaitl. It's crazy.
It becomes the attrition. They're going to come after you, and win or lose, they're going to get their pound of flesh. Like they're going to take a strip off you. This team is mean. They play mean. It's business. Like you drop that puck, like it's go time. Between the lines, you are going to have to raise up to our battle level, our compete level, and so far the teams haven't been able to match it. You talked about shutting down McDavid, Draisaitl, two best in the game. It was Pasternak before that in Boston. It was Panarin. It was Zibanejad with the Rangers. It was Braden Point and Kucherov with the Lightning. Just keep going down the list. Barkov has been on another planet. Gustav Forsling, the defenseman. Bobrovsky, maybe the Conn Smythe Trophy winner at the end of the day if they win it all as playoff MVP. Incredible stuff. But when you go through something like this, John, what becomes so special is that I can remember back in '96 is that you're living this dream. You can the exhaustion never felt so good in your body. When you come back to the bench and you're tired, it's never felt so good. You're in this zone. The bumps and the bruises, the ice bags after the game, it just feels, oh wow, you're just wrapping it. And I can remember vividly almost just beads of sweat just dropping off my face, that I was so engaged of what's happening around me because you're just so locked in. So these players will take all these experiences and you'll be able almost to dissect every single part of it second by second, minute by minute. 20 years down the road, you'll remember certain things and all the stuff that happens off the ice, the card games, the delayed plane flight with the rain, all those kind of stories. Then I put it out on Twitter yesterday, but there's no better quote than the one that says, if we win today, we walk together forever. That's the great one. It's the greatest statement in sports. If this Panther team wins, they'll be in Panther lore forever and they will be connected. And you'll put, just like our 96 team, but even a Stanley Cup champion team, you'll put these guys together 20, 30 years later, they'll fall lock and step. They'll be tied together in history, and they'll be the first ever to do it. And so that's what's on the table for this Panther group.
And that leads perfectly to my last question is you mentioned just soaking in every moment and just loving it and feeling that exhaustion and it just being like exhilarating. You almost don't want it to end in some ways. But we as fans, selfishly, some of us are like, oh, we want to see them hoist the cup in Sunrise, but then you can't think like that, right? So how are these players thinking right now? Like they just clearly, you just got to do it in Edmonton, right? You can't open the door a crack, right? This is something that just is going to be what it is.
Don't give anything a breath. We've seen crazy stuff happen in sports over the years. Any chance you got a chance to take home the silverware, it would be nice for the fans, but it's all business. Paul Maurice was talking about it yesterday. He said after the game, I'm going to enjoy it. And he said, I have a plan for yesterday for tomorrow, which is today. He said, and the team has a plan, and we know what we're doing tomorrow. But beyond that, we're not set. We'll formulate our plan for Saturday, which is game day, at the end of Friday, and then we'll work from there. So they just stay in the moment. What's next? Our pregame skate is next. Worry and just worry about the 6 inches in front of your nose, and just inch by inch. If you add it up inch by inch by inch by inch, where does it take you at the end? Does it take you to the Stanley Cup Finals? So stay present is the big message from the team. Just stay present where you're at. Don't start your mind ruminating, okay, what am I going to do if I win a Stanley Cup? How are the celebrations? Those thoughts creep in, but this team is very business. They've had one goal, one orientation, and it is to hoist the cup, and they're not going to let it slip away by letting their minds wander. It's today's business as usual, and the same thing on Saturday. They're going to go out there and play their tails off and try and win one game, and if they do win that one game, that would be the ultimate clincher.